the software. We also give you some inspiration and hopefully some business tips as well. I am Rhonda, the education manager here at Sawgrass, and I'm joined behind the scenes today by Stefan. So Stefan is in the chat. If you do have any questions, he'll be glad to answer those, and I'll press for him a time or two to see if there's anything that I can help with. So welcome, whether you're watching us live or whether you're watching later on recording, we're so glad to have you. Now, a little bit of housekeeping, because it is holiday weeks this week and next week, there is no Wednesday edition. You only have the Tuesday edition, and that will be today and next Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And then as we move into 2026, there will be one live workshop per week. That will be Wednesday afternoons at 2 p.m. Eastern. So you only have one time to tune in 2026. But don't worry, you're still going to get 2 workshops per week. One will just be pre-recorded. So that is the plan going forward. Just to give you a little bit more information, we did drop a new podcast yesterday. And it is, I sat down with a lot of my teammates and talked about the holidays. And so it's just a beautiful look at holiday traditions. There's some really interesting answers in there. So please check that out. That is the Ink Differently podcast. You will find it on Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Music as well. And then next week we'll drop another one, and that will be our year-end review for Sawgrass. Another conversation with several of my colleagues. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. And that is the end of season 2. Now, not going to be as much of a gap between seasons 2 and 3 as there were between 1 and 2. But we will be back mid-January with some new podcasts. So be on the lookout for those. So let's talk about where we are today and what we're looking at. And really, we are right at the cusp of Christmas, for those of you who celebrate. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve. Hopefully you have your shopping done, you have your making done, and you are now just doing the wrapping part. And we have some last minute wrapping that you can do with VersiFlex. So if you run out, if you have something that's an odd shape, we have some great ideas for you today, and I hope I have one that's going to blow your mind just slightly. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So again, I actually finished all of my making today. I have a lot of wrapping to do tonight, so I'm really excited about that. And so really, when I really thought about this kind of last minute gift wrap thing, what kind of struck me was that there are so many items that you're just going to find around your house that can be used with VersiFlex to make to help you wrap items. And that's kind of what I did. I actually was in here yesterday and I was picking up some things and I'm like, oh, and I could use that, and I could use that, and I could use that. So that's why there's so much on the tabletop today, is because I did find things kind of as I was walking around that work with VersiFlex. Now, let's talk again about what VersiFlex is. We are Sawgrass. We are known for our sublimation ink, but we do have the new product out called VersiFlex. It is the VersiFlex Decorating System. So it is your SG500 or SG1000 do work with the VersiFlex ink. You would need to get a new system for the ink. But with the VersiFlex ink, and using your sublimation transfer paper, you can do your traditional sublimation as you always have. But by putting in the VersiFlex Light paper, now you can go on to all of those things that have been off limits. So with the VersiFlex ink and the VersiFlex Light paper, now we can go on to items like uncoated wood. So this does not have the poly coating for sublimation. You also can go on to pretty much any fabric, cotton being the gold standard there, but you can go on to your linens and your canvases and your chiffons and your suedes and all of those various fabrics as well. So you no longer tie to things that are high polyester count. You can pretty much go out into any of the blends, any of the fabrics, as long as it stands up to the heat. And then as far as colors, as long as the dye stands up to heat, you pretty much can go on to any of your lights, brights and whites, and really move more into those medium range colors. We're still not quite there with the dark yet, but you can go into a lot darker range of colors than you could before. And of course, it's going to depend on the design you do. But VersiFlex really does open up kind of your avenues of everything that you can do. So it's really, really cool. So let's talk a little bit about finding products. So one of the big things, one of the big doors that has been opened by VersiFlex is we're no longer tied, like I said, to polyester, and we're no longer tied to blanks that are specifically coded for sublimation. So that means I have these are leftovers from a craft or project we did, I think in November for the workshops. But this is a great box that could be used to put something in. Now, when we're looking at wood, one of the big things is you are looking for wood that is not warped, that is nice and flat so that you can go onto it. This is removable. So this is why this works so well. I can easily press someone's name on here, put their gift inside. Now, not only do they have a great gift, they also are going to have a box that they can use for keepsakes and such. So it's really, really great box to use. I really love these. Just something we picked up on Amazon. One of the things that I did learn is, of course, you're going to press either sideways or you're going to press like this, facing down. If we do it the other way, the lid does fall off, and so we don't want to do that. But these are really, really great. Now, again, big things, making sure the wood is nice and flat. Thicker wood does work better than thinner wood, and it has to do with the way it absorbs the heat. So this is really kind of the gold standard. This is kind of where you want to go, or thicker works as well. So that's kind of where you want to look at for something like this. Now, as I'm picking up items around the building, this does have a drawstring at the top. Just as I would tell you if you were doing traditional sublimation on this, this portion does need to be outside of the press. The main reason being you want a flat surface again so that you're getting even pressure. And then the other part of this is a lot of times the things that are at the top are not able to handle the heat as well. So typically these strings do melt. I mean, if you ever get like those black nylon strings, they tend to melt in the press really easily. So when you're looking at things around your house to press onto, that's one of the things. How thick is the seam? Because that could create an unevenness too. And then are there any parts that you need to leave out? I was pressing something earlier with zippers. And so, of course, if at all possible, we leave the zippers out. And then if we can't, we do use a pressing pillow. This is that pressing pillow, quite easy to, there's different sizes, but you would get one that would fit inside. And you would use that pressing pillow for something like this to give you that even surface. Same thing with this. There's two things here. First of all, you're of course pressing on the top. The other thing is you probably want to slip something inside. Unless there is a good coating, this material does melt a little bit more. So you can press onto it too, but this is one where you can either use the pressing pillow, or the other thing you could always do with this is insert something to keep the two sides from sticking together. So if it were to get too hot, it's not going to stick from the front to the back. Something that would work really well for this would be like a wax paper, parchment paper. You could easily stick on there to make that work for you. But you can also just stick in that pressing pillow as well. All right, we actually are going to start there, and then we have a couple of bigger projects that we're going to do. Let me grab my ruler. I like using stockings as gift wrap because if you're doing multiple items, you could stick this in here. If it's something where you're giving someone a gift away from the house, then they have something to carry it in, which works really, really well. So stockings are great. Also, because it is personalized and it does have someone's name on it, these are awesome. Something really good to sell in a store, to have these because people can pick these up, can use these to put things in. So stockings are a really great ad for you business-wise as well. Something that we've talked about, and I'm actually going to show you this artwork. We're going to jump into my Sawgrass. And now I'm going to measure this just so you can see it. I'm going to go probably 4 wide by about 3 tall on this. I'm actually going to use my custom canvas. I'm going to do a 4 by 3 on this and start designing. Now, one of the things I wanted to show you is in our designs, I always use the filter, and I'm going to go to Christmas. And so one of the really cool things you can do, and there's a couple of these in here, are things like this P. Now, these are awesome, really easy to size, really works well with an initial. You are seeing they do have the pink diamond icon. That does mean they're part of the My Sawgrass subscription. So you do have to be a My Sawgrass Plus member to get that upgraded content with the pink diamonds. And it is $12.95 per month if you wanted to subscribe. But there's some really great content in there and things to use. And, you know, I've been making the last couple of days. Sometimes this is the hardest part, is finding good artwork to use. So this is a great tool that has a lot already in it for you. Now, one of the things I do suggest if you do have a business, there are a couple that you can have pre-made that you can have out. And then, of course, you can take orders for anything else. But the most popular first name initials, and this is globally, are the letters J, A, and M. So J, A, and M are great first initials. Awesome to have those. Not only do they work great for display so people can see what they look like, you can sell them on the spot if you're selling at a market or holiday sales or anything like that. Really great to have on. All right, so this is another one of my favorites. I really love this with the letter in front of it. So we're actually going to add that. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and switch that. It is not liking me today. If you do ever see an issue like that in the app, please go ahead and reach out to care.sawgrassinc.com and let them know. Often it is just as easy as us making a change in the back end, but we can't do it unless we know. So please let us know if you see an issue like that. I'm going to go ahead and just add a new text. I'm going to add my R, make that nice and big. I don't know if you saw me do it. I did it without showing you, but I did a copy paste on the color because I really like that red. So I'm going to go in. I'm just going to grab that value and do a copy paste. And now I have that same color. And then for my font, I'm going to go back up and I'm going to use that filter. And I'm actually going to go with a serif. So I do want one of those fonts with the feet on it. I love that you actually do see the letter in our software so you can go through and look. Actually do love that. So let's go. Oh, that's a little too square for me. Oh, it's a little too wiggly. This is where favoriting fonts works really great so that you have those fonts saved that you really love and you can use them each time. This is one that I should definitely save. I do always recommend with this that what you do is you kind of favorite one of each. So you have a favorite script, you have a favorite handwritten font, you have a favorite serif font, a favorite sans serif, just so you kind of have a good book of the ones that you really like to use. And then if you need a specialty font for something, I was doing something earlier specifically around hunting. So I used more of a font that looked like a stencil because that worked better with what I was doing. But you can have that general list of fonts that you love that work well for you. We're going to go ahead and get this sent to the printer, sent to the Sawgrass print utility. So we do have that pulling up. I did hit my print button. And that's going to go in just a minute. May ask me a couple of extra questions. But again, you know, using the stocking like this is just a great way to kind of expand. And, you know, it's good both ways. It's good for business, but it's also good if you need a last minute gift wrap is to have that. All right, so you should always see this pop up. If you are not seeing this request to open the Sawgrass print utility, normally that's going to mean that you have a pop-up block of some kind. You want to make sure and turn that off. All right, there I am. I am set up to my printer. I'm going to go down and make sure landscape is fine. I'm going to adjust for light colors. I think those berries in the back may be pushing that limit of where we want to make sure that it lays down the expander. I'm going to say this is a natural fabric other than cotton, so I'm going to change it to that. And then my VersiFlex light paper is actually my option tray on this printer. If you haven't seen an option tray, I'm going to hit print, and then I'll let Stefan change to the main camera. But so my printer does have an option tray underneath. What this allows me to do is I can have both sublimation transfer paper and VersiFlex paper in the same printer at the same time. So I'm not having to switch back and forth. Really easy for me as I demo for you. But if I were to have a system at home, this is how I'd have my system set up, just so I have all my options available very easily. All right, so that is printed and ready to go. I'm going to check my press, and then we'll set. I did have a pressing pillow in there earlier on something else where we had it underneath, but for this, it's going to work best that it's inside. I'm going to check and see if that pressure is good or from you. Oh, yep, that's a nice high pressure, so it's all good. I'm going to use this as my pre-press as well. Anytime we're doing fabric, we do want to do about a 5 to 10 second pre-press. You're going to see me do a finishing press also. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off some of this extra. Now, the reason I'm going to cut this off is because it just makes it easier to handle. You've probably heard that it does go on wet, and it does. But there's not a tremendous weight or tremendous rush. You don't want it to dry, but you really can go up to about 12 minutes and not really worry about that. You're also going to see me use what I call the hover and drop. So I always hold it in my hand, position it above. You'll often see I have my fingers touching, just so I have better control. I'm going to get that nice and centered where I want it. Drop that down, and we're set and ready to go. Now, I always use paper on top. I know sometimes people don't. Because I do so much wood and things that have like dust and fibers and all of that going on, I often do put the paper on top still with the VersiFlex, just to give me a little bit more control and make me feel a little safer. All right. So it is 30 seconds. We do have that at the equivalent of 375. I have it a little bit lower to kind of compensate for the temperature on this. But we are set. Now, normally with fabric, I don't always wear gloves. Sometimes I find that if I just put kind of a light glove on, it is nice. Just gives me a little bit more control if it's really warm to the touch. Right, and that is that super high pressure. Now this is an immediate hot peel. So I do want to get that off immediately. And yep, see, that's what I was saying. It even stuck to this a little bit. So we want to go ahead and loosen that up, but let it stay on there too long. I'm going to come back over here, Stefan. All right. And there we go. Check that out. A nice little easy way to do this. And now we have this little stocking that we could easily put multiple gifts in here. Some treats, really great for treats as well. I know that, you know, at the craft stores, people are already finding that it's hard to find things to put treats in. Well, if you're giving treats to one person or one family, this could be a family initial too. Really easy way to kind of finish that up and put that in there. All right, so let's say you have a gift, or, you know, this actually kind of works a couple of different ways. You actually, if you're one of those people who are ahead of the game and you have some time on your hands to not only make your gifts or buy your gifts and then maybe make some custom wrapping paper, this is a really good one that you can do. And it is actually, this is something, we picked this up. We were actually looking for something else, and the person who went to the store picked up the wrong thing, but it's still something that comes in really handy. And that's just a nice cotton fabric. So this is just a cotton fabric. It does have a hem on this particular one. I would probably cut some out the middle. You can use pinking shears. You can use anything to kind of close those edges and make sure that they work. But I'm just going to use this as if it's just cotton fabric today because I needed some cotton fabric for a project. And like I said, you know, this is a good one. Now I am going to use Adobe Illustrator, and I know I normally don't. I usually stay within the design tool, but because I'm using so many photos, I just figured it'd be quicker and easier to stay right here. Okay. I'm just going to make a 10 by 10 block. And so in this case, what I'm going to do for the wrapping paper is I'm actually going to use pictures of the person from throughout the year, and then use those as their wrapping paper. Now this works great if there are a lot of kids in the house that everyone kind of has their own wrapping paper. It's kind of a cutesy way to do that. So I have pulled some images. I'm just going to go ahead and grab a few of those. I'm going to go ahead and make those smaller, fit them on my canvas. Make them easier to deal with when I had more. Now there are other ways to size. I could just put in a dimension. I never mind just kind of sizing them down even when they're large like this. I could also increase my canvas area to make it so I didn't have to do this as many times. Whatever works best for you. Okay. We have those now. And let's add a few more, and then we'll just put them all together and go from there. But yeah, I just kind of went through the year, found some images of my daughter from various activities and various times. Holding down that shift key as I kind of go through them. All right, we're ready to close. There we go. We can see her, so we know we're getting closer. All right, perfect. Okay. Go ahead and drop some of these on the page. You can have them kind of overlap, however you want to do this. If you were doing it in our software, you would do the same, or you just kind of bringing some to the front, sending others to the back to make them all fit. All right. There we go. Okay, perfect. So we kind of have this going on. All right. I think we're good there. All right, good. All right. So normally what I do is I just go ahead and export this in the PNG and drop that right in my print utility. Of course, I can also do a send to Sawgrass print utility. And that's as easy as going to File, Print. Okay. I'm going to go into my print utility. I'm going to go on over to a new job. And I'll go ahead and add that gift wrap. Now, Stefan, have we had any questions or comments?
Not yet. We have some comments. Joel and Lori checking in.
Nice.
Tom.
Hi, Tom. Joel, Lori, glad to have you here. All right, so we have that set. We have our printer chosen. I've made it so it fits. And we're set and ready to go. I'm going to go to the adoption tray and we will be ready. Now I'm going to go ahead and while this is doing that, I will go ahead and pre-press the fabric. Now I'm going to put the thing slightly. It'll filter. We'll go ahead and make sure we're on the right side of the fabric. Just going to get a good piece in here. It doesn't really matter with this because I'll be cutting it after. A little too much pressure. Perfect. All right, so we're gonna give it that 5 to 10 second precut.
Joel asked what fabric we're working on.
Yeah, so I'm just using a cotton fabric. I'm actually using like a sackcloth that you would normally use for like a tea towel. That just happened to be what I had on hand. This doesn't really matter how I position this because again, I can cut it out later. And then what I would probably do with something like this is just gather it, and then at the top you can use a ribbon. I hope you've seen some of the workshops we've done recently on ribbon. You again can put photos on ribbon, which works beautifully well with you use like cotton or even like a tightly woven burlap or canvas. Those work really great too. Yeah, so I would just go ahead and go in, I'd cut this out. And then once I've cut this out, I can then put my present in it. It's just a good way. I'd probably use a wider variety of pictures if I wasn't in a hurry. But just another great way to add that kind of personalized touch to wrap with that. Just another way of saying, here's your gift without having to use a name tag. So really, really cool. All right. So pretty much from day one, as we've discussed VersiFlex and all the things that you can go on to with VersiFlex, people have always said, have you tried cardstock? Have you tried brown paper? Have you tried craft paper? And my answer until today has always been no. But today I actually went in and I tested. So what I tested on, just so you see it, is I went on both a white bag and a brown bag. I really wanted to see, because it's all about, with VersiFlex, it's all about the porousness. So it does need to be able to grab on, so there has to be some roughness. That's why, your uncoated metals, your metals that don't have the poly coating on them are still off limits because there's nothing for the ink to kind of grab onto, for that paper to grab onto. So I knew the brown, I had a pretty good feeling as long as the brown could take the heat, we'd be okay. I was a little more concerned about the white because it is smoother. Works just the same. There's no difference. It works really, really great. So either the brown bags or the white bags. So I'm going to show you a brown bag today, but I did also, and just so you know, I went to the dollar store. So these are all dollar store products. I did try both the brown box and the white box. Both did work well. I personally was so excited from the bags that I didn't adjust the pressure correctly or at all before I tried the boxes. So my first try was not as successful, but was still definitely user error. There was nothing wrong with the pressing process, so it works just the same. It's really, really awesome. So let's go ahead and show you one of these. I'm actually going to go on to the brown bag. I didn't really measure earlier, so I'll give us a little bit more of an idea of where we can go on this. We're going to go about 6 by 9 works really well. We'll go 6 by 8 just to be safe onto this bag. Now, I was talking earlier about making sure that when you're doing something like this, that you're checking kind of the surface. With this bag, There are a lot of like seams and pieces and parts, so you probably do want to use a pressing pillow. I used one beneath it instead of inside of it earlier. I'll probably try it inside this time. But you know, just making sure that you're kind of aware of creases. Again, handles do stay out just because this material is not always good to go underneath string seat. Let's go ahead and jump right in. We'll go ahead and do a 6x8. And really here, you know, you can add anything to this. It is going to take any kind of image. So we're going to go into our Christmas. And I'm really just going to find a really great design. Another great thing to do if you're in a situation where you don't, I'm actually going to go with this one. This is a big favorite of mine. I always like to be able to show you further down in the software, but I know this is going to work great. So I'm going to size this to work. And then I'll click where the name is. Yeah. All right. Make it a little bit bigger so it's nice and readable. I really love the look of this. We'll go ahead and hit print. One of the things I got asked this morning was how does the peel feel? What I have learned over our time with VersiFlex is that things that don't have as much stretch feel better when you peel them. So if you're peeling this kind of cotton as opposed to a t-shirt, it feels a lot better. Anything that's extremely stretchy, the peel is like it's almost pulling back on you. It's a bungee cord effect. So I do like things that don't have that pull to it. And the biggest thing again is just making sure that you're consistently going fast when you're doing this. And just keeping an even pull or even speed when you're pulling. All right. I'm going to let that go ahead and send over to our Sawgrass print facility. Going to give it permission. Okay, now this is all set. Now I will tell you what I did. I'm going to make sure it's set to the right printer. What I did was I chose uncoated wood just because of the fiber and the color. I thought it was the most similar to that of anything. I did talk to our chemist after I did it and successfully did it. And he said that, yeah, that's probably what he would think too. All right. So that's going to the printer. Let's go ahead and set up our press. I'm going to raise this a little bit. I do know that you could probably have it, because I'm going to put the pressing pillow in, probably need to lift that up just slightly. And I'm just going to stick the pressing pillow inside this stone. Pressure. Now I'm going to treat this truly as if it's uncoated wood. I'm going to go with kind of a low medium on the pressure. Probably can add a little bit more than that. Yeah, So not too high of a pressure, but enough that it's good out there. And that's it in our video. We'll go ahead and cut off some of this extra paper just to make it easier. Anytime we're doing on something like this, you are going to want to leave a bit of a tail just to give yourself something to grab onto. Something go there. Grab that, put it up nicely, and drop it. Okay. And we're all set and ready to go. A little high, I actually probably could go slightly lower on that. Okay. Stefan, any other comments or questions?
Joel said you didn't use his corner fold method.
I did not.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, you know, we're all getting little techniques and things that work well for us. Mhm. I did slow down quite a bit. That can be a problem sometimes. I haven't found that it's as much of an issue with the paper, which is nice. Okay. Check this out. Is that not the coolest thing? Stefan, are you getting a good angle on that?
Yep.
Yeah. So really easy to use, and to answer the question that I've been asked a million times, yes, you can definitely use paper products. Like I said, and I did run this by our chemist just to make sure I wasn't completely off base. Medium, low pressure, and then I did drop the temp a little, like maybe more like 370 than 375, but that's really it. And then I use the uncoated lid setting. So I hope you have some inspiration today. Some things that you can do if you have last minute gift wrapping to do, and some things to think about adding to your store next year. The paper bag is going to be very important. I want to say this is great marketing for your business to be able to make your own bags for to put customer stuff in. So just a great way to add your logo or personal touch, whether it's a box, whether it's a bag, to be able to add that is just another great way to kind of make sure your name is always out there. That QR code back to your website or to your social, and your social handles there too. So paper bags, game changer, something we need to talk about a lot in 2026. And that's all I have for you. We will be back next Wednesday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern. I hope you all have a great holiday weekend.
Joel had a question.
Oh, Joel has a question.
He asked if it was best to place the image below the handle from the inside.
Yeah, I probably would. I didn't run into an issue, but I also was using something that had stripes. But anything that's going to cause an unevenness, you want to avoid. I think because of the pressing pillow. So pressing pillows do two things. One is they kind of even anything. Well, they kind of give you an even surface. But the reason they give you an even surface is that anything that is not even often will sink into the pressing pillow. That's why we recommend using a pressing pillow if you can't get the zipper outside of the press. Using that in there helps create that evenness, and it gives it something to sink into so it has some softness. The same thing kind of happens with this handle. Yes, there's a little unevenness at the top because of the handle, but because this sinks into the pressing pillow when it's flattened. The same thing if you've ever done photo slates. Actually, was having this conversation this morning. The pressing pillow actually goes on top with a slate and it helps to press the image into any crevices. So it really works great for that too. So in general, yes, you want to stay below the handles, but in this situation, because I used a pressing pillow, it helped compensate. Any other questions? All right, well, with that, again, happy holidays. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.